Hello, good people. Welcome to the Switch Pivot or Quit podcast. I am your host, Ayana Angel, and I am excited for you to be here because I'm excited for this conversation we're going to have today. So today we have a guest with us. Her name is Vanessa Simmons. She's a model, an actress, and an entrepreneur. Vanessa is also dedicated to the beauty and wellness space. She is an enthusiast, and she is also the founder of a new company, Euphoria. It's an online community built around fact-based beauty and wellness tips and mental health awareness. Vanessa, you may also recognize her and know her from being the eldest daughter of hip-hop legend Rev Run of Run DMC, and she's best known for appearing on the iconic reality series Run's House. I know she's probably surprised that we're still mentioning these things, but sometimes we have to give people context. We saw her journey on that show, how she built a business with her sister, Angela Simmons, and the business was called Pastry. So Vanessa, welcome to the Switch Pivot or Quit podcast.
Thank you for having me and for that great intro. Brought me down memory lane.
I know. Does it surprise you when people still reference Run's House in the journey you all had there?
It does, but it's always good to have that refresher and to go down memory lane, you know?
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
So was Pastry the very first business that you ventured into starting?
Yeah, Pastry was the first business I ever did. I was fresh out of college, maybe 2 years, and I was a communications and business major. So I really wanted to put that degree to work. And we got into the family business. My dad was doing run athletics at the time, and me and my sister, we had an idea. We crafted together. We took it to my dad, and he was like, okay. He took it to his business partners, and they gave us a shot. We were shocked. Our goal was to make $1 million, and we surpassed that. And still to this day is one of the best memories and experiences that I've had.
Mm-hmm. So when you all decided to, I guess, walk away from that business, close it down, what have you, what kind of decision making went into that, being that this is something that you wanted to do? It exceeded your expectations. A lot of people that listen to this podcast, they're trying to figure out, what is my next thing and how do I know when to walk away from something? How did you sort of decide it was time to walk away? What was that thought process like for you?
Well, it definitely was not something that was easy. And sometimes looking back, I wish we would have stayed and just grew with the company. But there were a lot of things on the business side of it, the way that our deal was structured, that we just kind of outgrew the relationships that we had fostered building the company. And so it was just best that we walk away. It was really difficult, but sometimes you have to look at the full picture and figure out if it's going to continue to be beneficial for you or if the company is going to continue to grow and evolve. That's always really important. And in that case with Pastry, it was time to move on and grow up a little bit. Me and my sister were ready to venture out and do different things. I wanted to go into acting. My sister had other ideas for what she wanted to do. We were so young, you know.
Yeah.
In that case, we were just ready to grow a little bit. Looking back, sometimes I wish we continued on that journey, but you know what? Everything happens for a reason, and you can't regret any decision.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's funny because I think a lot of times when you spend time building something and you're so close to it, and maybe even when you need a break, it's easy to be like, let me just walk away from this. But hindsight, when you get away from it, you're like, I spent all that time and that effort and energy building this.
Yeah.
Maybe I could have done XYZ with it if I had stayed with it. But like you said, sometimes we have to do what's best for us in the moment.
Yeah. And sometimes, looking back and now being an older woman and, more developed entrepreneur, sometimes it's okay to take a break from something, get some refreshing, energy, and then go back to it with a new perspective. So,
Mm-hmm.
as an adult looking back at that, I definitely suggest that too to entrepreneurs. It's okay to take a break. It could be a year break, it could be a couple of months, but I'm big on not quitting now that I'm
Yeah.
older and I have a daughter and, I want to convey that kind of message to her.
Mm-hmm. So, how do you go about vetting new business ideas? Because this business, Euphoria, is a new venture for you. How do you go about vetting new business ideas?
I go with what I feel passionate about. Pastry was more than just building sneakers. It was about inspiring a generation of girls behind us and letting people know, you know what, you could be young, you could look like us, and you can do this too. So Pastry was also a business that was meant to inspire. So all the businesses, all the projects, everything I do is meant to inspire and empower. And with Euphoria in particular, I want to be able to be impactful in a way. That's why I'm setting it around being an educational hub where it's just giving people tips and tricks and education they need to live their best life. I feel like now more than ever, that's really important, and an emphasis on mental health and how to really prioritize ourselves is important. And I want to be able to put wellness in the spotlight in that way. I have a lot of people that follow me, a lot of people that say, I look up to you. So I want to give them something to look up to. I want to be like, okay, well, how can I best utilize my platform? And I feel like wellness is the way right now. We all need to be prioritizing our health. There's a lot going on in the world. A lot of mental health awareness needs to be had. Self care and all of that falls into that category. So I feel really good about that. I feel really passionate about that. I feel like I'm making an important impact. And so that's how I vetted starting Euphoria. I just wanted to be a help in some sort of way.
When did wellness and being really conscious of your mental health and how you're pouring into yourself and all of those aspects, when did that become like a central focus for you?
It's always been something I've been super passionate about. I've always been a self care spa girly, someone who knows when to step away. We did a lot of work with Pastry, and at times we would be in so many different cities doing meet and greets and, different business ventures for the company. I would wake up and not even know what city I was in. I think in 1 year we had gone to almost 48 states, something like that, like traveling, and it was like consistent. And so I really learned that sometimes I had to find the pockets within those breaks of when to prioritize myself, because you can't exist just filling up other ventures, filling up other people. You have to fill up yourself. So it's always been something I've been super interested in, always something that my friends and family have leaned on me for advice, because they see myself finding that time for myself. And so it's always been something I've been interested in. But in particular, during the lockdown of 2020, I started archiving this information, sharing it with family and friends, what teas to take, how to stay as healthy as possible. I had friends that were locked down by themselves, how to, find the pockets of joy and peace, whether it be breathing exercises, different meditations I'd send them, herbs, teas, you name it, I would be that person giving everyone advice. And I started thinking with one of my friends in particular, she was just like, Vanessa, you should put this information out there. You should start curating your content to be focused around this stuff, because I find it really useful. And I was like, you know what? I think that would be a good idea. There are other websites that exist, Goop, Poosh, other platforms, but nothing that's tailored to and, giving back to our community, letting it know that it's accessible also to us, putting us in the narration as well. And so
Mm,
I was like, you know what? Let's do it. And I started
yeah.
archiving information, writing blogs, and step by step, it just started to become more and more of a business.
Okay, nice. Talk to us about the last thing that you shared with somebody that you can remember that was like beneficial for them. Like you just mentioned, you were having this conversation with this friend and pouring into people around you. What's the last like article you shared, a tea you shared, supplement you shared, meditation practice? I don't know, something that you shared with your people.
Every day. Let's see. I had a friend recently come to me. She's just been feeling really down. And so I just sent her some of the meditations that I do and breathing exercises. And she was like, thanked me after, because like there's so much power in breathing, that like actual, real, intentional breathing, that people just don't even realize could switch your nervous system from being stressed to feeling a little bit more at ease, and then you can think a little bit more clearly, and it's not as bad as you think it is. So yeah, there's just it's simple. Like I think it's like breathe in 5 seconds, hold it 6 seconds, release for 4 seconds, and do that over and over again for about like nine times in a row, and you just
Mm.
it just helps to release so much stress. And so that was the most recent, but I mean, it's every day with me, with my beauty tools, with my ice roller, with my LED light wands. Like, I am just that person for my family and friends.
Yeah, you're living it. You know, it's funny that you mentioned that about the breath work. I had never really heard of breath work until a friend of mine suggested it. And so I did a whole session and it was amazing. And now when I do meditations within a meditation app, I realize now that most people start with you doing some type of breathing. So I was like,
Yeah.
there's something to this.
Yeah.
So I love that.
It helps to just neutralize your nervous system. An overworked nervous system is the first step to everything just being out of control and spiraling. So we always need to keep our nervous system in check, and breathing is one of the like easiest first ways I can suggest to really start to bring it back into balance.
What role does self awareness play for you in your, I guess you could say, business life? It's like I say business life, but business life, personal life, professional life, it's all the same. It's all one and the same. So, what role does, I guess, self awareness play for you in just how you approach business?
Um, I feel like being self-aware is really important for me because it's going to allow me to really put into perspective what it is I need to be doing to reach like my goals, and being honest with yourself about where you are. You don't want to be too hard on yourself, and you want to put your best foot forward, but being self-aware is pretty important, and I take count of that with like my journaling, putting down what my goals are, and what I can accomplish realistically, and what I can't, you put off. But it definitely plays a part in my business, and especially in acting. You need to be self aware to some sort of degree to be able to tap into another character.
Hmm.
So, yeah, it does play a part in my business and in my personal life because I'm a mother. So, it's important for me to be aware of my emotions, how I'm reacting or not reacting to certain things. It's important and something that's become more essential as I've gotten older, and of course as I grew into motherhood. My patience, my tolerance,
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like that's one of those things they don't talk to us about is like self-awareness, but it's one of those things that as you get older, you become aware of it and then you're like, how was I not leaning into this before? Because this really does matter in my day-to-day life.
Yeah, you just
Yeah,
can't let it
yeah.
bring you down though when you run into things that you feel you're lacking in. Just work on those things in small increments, but don't let
Hmm.
it get you too down.
Right, right. Speaking of being hard on yourself,
Oh God.
procrastination
Woo.
has a negative connotation. But I want to know from you. This is a question I feel like everybody's like, yeah, of course. But I want to know, what does it look like for you? Do you ever procrastinate?
Yeah. There are
What does
days
it look like?
me saying I need to take a mental wellness day every time I feel a little something come up that I'm just like, I don't like the way that feels.
Mm,
So procrastination comes up and it's normal, but I try to practice things that help me to not procrastinate. I have this rule where, you start doing a project, give yourself 10 minutes, and then if you feel like you absolutely cannot continue on, then take a break if your mental is not there. But once I start, I'm actually more motivated to keep it going, and then that just keeps on flowing. But at least give yourself 10 minutes at what you're doing before you throw in the towel. But procrastination, it,
hmm.
it happens to the best of us. It's easy to procrastinate, but, give yourself grace too. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
we
absolutely.
don't always have to work so hard. Working smarter, work
Yeah,
smart, not
yeah.
harder. Yeah.
I feel like that's a big narrative for us right now is just moving away from the hustle nature of things and that hustle culture and reprogramming ourselves to say, just like you said, start doing something, hold yourself accountable. But if you realize that in the midst of doing it, you're not feeling it, okay, check in, be self aware, and then reassess like, should I keep going with this right now or should I give myself some grace and give myself a break?
Yeah.
And I can come back to it. Yeah. Yes,
Sometimes
I
your
love it.
mind needs a break. Your nervous system needs it just for you to rest. Rest is one of the most healing things we can do for ourselves. So when you're in a moment when you really feel you need to take it, that is your body signaling that you probably need to take a break and let your mind come to a complete stop for a second.
When was the last time that something you wanted, you really wanted, did not work out in your favor? And how did you handle it?
I'm an actress, dear. So this happens all the time when I just, put my heart and soul into an audition and, you think you killed it and then you hear, Kelly Rowland got the part or something, but then you're like, okay, I could see how she got the part over me, or whatever it may be.
Mhm.
So, those type of challenges come along with in my business and it's just the nature of things and, you just keep it pushing and keep it moving and put your all into the next opportunity that comes up. But when I was younger, I used to take those things really, really hard. When I first got
Mm.
out to Hollywood and I first started pursuing being an actress and I auditioned for things and didn't get it, I would be really critical and hard on myself. But now I just know get back on the horse, pick yourself up, go back to a class, read a book, find out how you can be better, study what that person did perhaps, and see how you can elevate your craft and your talent in some sort of way. So I just use it as motivation now. But before, it used to break me down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It sounds like I'm hearing you say, like, instead of being hard on yourself, lean into how you can maybe nurture yourself and your talents more so that the no's, maybe they come less.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's never really, I always like to say it's never really a failure. It's always just a lesson in some sort of
Hmm.
way. So anything that comes about that someone else might call a failure, now I just look at it as a lesson. How can I learn it so I can move past it and get bigger, better, stronger in some sort of way? Learn from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel a pressure to be? And I mean, like what comes to your mind when I say that? I'm sorry, I cut you off. What are you gonna say?
No, yeah. I've always had this like pressure. I come from a family of like success and big dreams made into reality. And so I've always felt a pressure to add to that legacy in some way. I've taken it off in the last couple of years, especially since I've been leaning more into wellness and being more self aware and just giving myself the validation I need that I've done good and I'm doing okay and I am enough. Affirmations are a big part of that. So you got to take that pressure off. And on one end, pressure definitely makes a diamond, but on the other end, you don't want to be too hard on yourself. You don't want to beat yourself up. That's not going to lead to the goal any faster. I think what will lead to the goal is just, you know, putting in the work, being consistent, showing up for yourself. Those are the things that matter that you can stay sane at the end of
Hmm.
the day. So, like I said, it's always about giving yourself grace and making sure that you're putting in 100%, working as hard as you can. But you can't beat yourself up. Too much pressure
Yeah.
is not good. Like you said, like we're all trying to get out of that hustle mentality. It's too harsh on us. We don't need all of
Yeah.
that. So just do your best and forget the rest. That's what my dad always used to say to me. And I think as an adult, like I'm starting to get that even more, what exactly that means.
It hits different.
So much different. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. When was the last like aha moment you had? It could be something big, something small, but you were just like, this all makes sense now. Or whatever it is, it clicks. Like it finally clicked.
My mother was right, always. Now that I'm a mom, and raising a kid, I have these moments every day with my daughter. She's 9 years old now, so you can imagine like the conversations are a lot more elevated, and she's just starting to grasp the world in a different way. And I'm just always like, wow, my mom, she had it right with everything she's ever told me. So I have these aha moments probably every single morning, because I spend the most time in the morning with my daughter, getting her ready for school, taking her to school. And I'm just like, well, my mom was right. My mom was right. She was always right. I call her at least once a week to just say thank you and I'm sorry
Yeah,
for all the hard times I've given you. She's like, Ava Marie's over there getting you, isn't she? I'm like, yeah, she is. She is.
just a little
Just
bit.
a little bit. No, but it's a beautiful evolution to now be a mother and, be in the same position my mom was in so many years ago. Yeah. And I'm
Hmm.
learning
Hmm.
from my daughter. So it's a beautiful circle of life.
Yeah, that really is a beautiful thing. Okay, so what's something that you learned from her that you're like, yeah, I need to tell people this. She made me think about that.
Patience, and that she is mirroring everything I do. Like sometimes I'll be like, girl, where'd you get that from? She's like, you. And I have to be like, oh, okay. So I really have to be, that's what made me lean more into the self awareness of it all, is just knowing that I have a little person who's watching me, even when I think that she is not. And
Hmm.
it's a beautiful thing, but then it's also kind of a scary thing too, because I want to make sure
Yeah.
that I'm putting the best example that I can. But then again, without being too hard on myself, I want to be authentic, and I want her to know it's okay to be yourself. You don't got to put on no perfect front for anybody. Be who you are. So it's an interesting balance. But yeah, she
Yeah.
definitely makes me more self aware. Like just making sure I'm watching exactly what I'm portraying to her, but then also pushing that you be yourself always, no matter what. I want her to be
Hmm.
a
Hmm.
leader. Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, a leader. I think there's a lot there in that word leadership that I think we all assume we know what it means and what it's supposed to look like. What have you learned maybe about leadership throughout your years of observing, going through things, being a participant and all of that in life, period?
Well, number one, holding yourself accountable and having original thought, having your own thought, being able to be inspired by others, of course, because I'm all about learning and making sure that you have like mentors and people you can look up to, people that you admire, blueprints, but being original and having original thought to me is really important, and what really crafts and makes your character and makes you who you
Hmm.
are. That's how you'll be able to best lead a team, is if people can know, that you're leading them somewhere, and that you
Yeah,
have a vision. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You mentioned mentors. Who has been maybe a figure, a mentor figure for you, someone that you really relied on their leadership or mentorship?
Believe it or not, I mean, because he is but my dad, still to this day, because he doesn't judge us. People assume because he's a reverend, we have to act a certain type of way. But my dad has led, life as DJ Run, and then he's also a reverend and very into his Bible and all of that. But the way he is with us, he's not judgmental at all, and we're able to go with to him with anything. And it's the best that we work in the business that he's in also, so he's able to give us like real raw advice all the time.
Yeah.
So my dad is definitely one of my mentors and someone I can go to and not feel any judgment, and who knows the business better.
Mm-hmm.
He's been all in and out and through it, so he knows it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like your dad maybe was one of the first people in our culture of hip hop, blackness, whatever you want to call it, to introduce black people, especially black men, to like taking a step back, having time for yourself and relaxing when he would do his bubble baths at the end of his show.
See why I'm into self-care?
Right, and so this is what I was gonna say. So now, what does the conversation look like between you and him when you're talking about Euphoria, and maybe even when you shared with him, like, I'm gonna launch this business and it's gonna be based on mental health and self care and all of these good things that pour into us. What do the conversations look like between you all now? Because I'm sure that then you probably looked at your dad at the end of each episode. You probably didn't even watch it, but him taking these bubble baths, and you're like, here he go, Dad.
But
Like,
that
really?
is authentically him. Like people, that was not for a TV show. My dad, to this day, that is
Hmm.
his routine. He's feeling any type of pressure, stress, like he's taking his bath. So um
But did you take it for granted when you were younger? I don't know, or did it have the same impact or the same feeling that it has now that you're into the wellness space?
don't we always take our parents just a little bit for granted when we're younger because we don't realize what adulthood actually entails? Of course,
True.
I did. And sometimes he'd come running in with a book, or he'd be like, I got something good for you, and I would always accept it. And it was always, super receptive of what he was telling me. But I miss that. I miss him just busting into my room with the books and the tips and the things that he knew I was going to need later on in life. But those are some of my best memories, and the reason that I feel like I am going down this path today. Like, and sometimes I feel like he just has to lean to me and be like, take your own advice when I call him and I'm not, and I'm breaking down and everything ain't going the way that I planned and I don't know. He's
Yeah.
like, well, aren't you telling people that? So go read your blogs,
Uh-huh. Listen to yourself.
rebalance,
Yeah.
and pull it
Hmm.
together. So it's a beautiful relationship, and I love the relationship that I have with my dad, and I love the inspiration I can gather from him, and how I can go to him and know that there's no judgment.
Yeah. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. It's like full circle, it's full circle. Like, he introduced, I feel like, the community to, being self-aware and needing your own space and wellness, and now you're carrying on that legacy.
Yeah,
So you're doing exactly what you're supposed to do.
words of wisdom. Rev Run's words of
Yes.
wisdom.
Yes, 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 absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Vanessa, for spending this time with us, for sharing your career journey and your ins and outs, and just letting us a little bit inside of how you're approaching life. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me, and I'm happy we were finally able to do this. So thank you.
Yes, yes, yes. And all of you, be well, and until next time.